If you're like me, you take your time off very seriously. You know what you need to do to refresh and recharge to get back into the classroom ready for the next round. For my wife and I, that means travel. Whenever we can get out of town, we do. And of all the places we've ever been to, Ireland has to be one of our favorites. If you too would like to see the Emerald Isle, and I mean really see it, you have to go with someone from Ireland. That's why I recommend Celtic Seasons for your Irish adventure. You will fall in love with this country. The green of the landscape is amazing and so much more green than you could ever imagine. That will make sense once you get there, I promise. The people you meet will be welcoming and kind, and that's not for show, they're really just that nice. The views will literally take your breath away. This was especially true for me at the Cliffs of Moher. On top of that, there are castles, abbeys, quaint villages, and cities founded by Vikings. Your guides on this magical adventure will be my friends Deirdre and Jenny. Yes, they are from Ireland, and they'll take you to all the great places you think of when you think of Ireland, from Blarney Castle to the Giant's Causeway. But they will also introduce you to the Ireland that you don't know yet, but will still fall in love with just the same. To book your tour, use my special link at celtic-seasons.com/tours/lessons. Or if you want to bring a little bit of Ireland to you, check out celtic-seasons.com to shop their store. Now, on with the show. This Summer School Series episode comes from November of 2025, and it's called The History of Teamwork. When I wrote about the history of teamwork, I should have noted that I was writing from the perspective of someone who was at their peak in terms of productivity. I'm in my mid-40s right now, so if there ever was a time when I could do this on my own, it'd be right now. But I don't. Looking back now and thinking about the complete human life cycle, not just history, I see that for huge chunks of our lives, we are completely dependent on other people. Think about how fragile a newborn baby is and how utterly useless they'd be at taking care of themselves. Compare that to most other species on the planet, and we are as far from independent as it gets. Likewise, many of us will once again lean on other people when we get towards the end of our lives. No one can do this on their own. In my social studies class, I typically teach about ancient civilizations, so that's probably where I got the idea for this episode in the first place. But even looking at teamwork from a modern viewpoint, it still rings true. From elementary school all the way up through high school, we teach about the core democratic values, which are based on the founding documents of the United States. And here, democratic means democracy, not the political party. One of the core democratic values that we teach is called common good. It states that the government's role is to foster a common good by doing things like building infrastructure, upholding the law, and ensuring public safety. Once again, it's the idea that we do it together. JFK famously said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." He's referring to the common good, and that's a far cry from going at it alone. This is the Summer School series of Lessons We Forgot, and this episode is called The History of Teamwork. Since the very beginning of humanity here on Earth, people have always worked as a team. Archaeologists have long concluded that early humans worked together when hunting and gathering. Large game like mammoths, bison, and elk would be nearly impossible for one person to track and hunt on their own before the days of high-powered firearms. Instead, the first hunters worked together to trap, snare, and stalk their prey. While primitive, this strategy was unbelievably successful, eventually leading to people populating and thriving in almost every region on the planet. After the invention of agriculture, when humans all over the globe traded their spears for plows, teamwork continued to be just as important. John Deere was nowhere to be found in these early farming communities, so people had to work together to build and maintain irrigation systems, plant crops, and to harvest whatever they were able to produce. Ancient Egyptian wall paintings show massive groups of farmers, including men, women, and children, all pitching in during the harvest. There's even evidence that musicians performed in the fields to liven up what must have been very tedious work. Skipping very far ahead in human history to the Industrial Revolution, when people began harnessing the power of machines, people still worked side by side in teams, despite all this new technology. Productivity reached an all-time high, but nothing would have been accomplished without the teams of people to run the machines, feed the furnaces, and to keep the factories humming. Even today, when 75% of the workforce in the United States no longer farms or works in a factory, when the vast majority of us provide a service instead of a product, we still rely on teams. Whether you work in a supermarket, a hospital, or a law firm, whether you build cars, mow lawns, or fly a plane, you are part of a team. Of course, some people have their very own small business with no employees. They make a bespoke niche product or provide a service for unique clientele. Even then, they rely on customers, food producers, raw material extractors, and any number of other individuals who they lean on at least a little bit. In fact, the idea of a self-made man is pretty absurd when you think about how interconnected we all are. We can't accomplish anything without our families, our communities, or the generations of people who came before us who laid the groundwork for everything we have today. Teaching can be a pretty isolating profession at times. When we shut our doors and begin the lesson, it can seem like we're up there on a stage all by ourselves. Trying to convince a student to try something they aren't interested in doing, or convincing a parent that you actually do have their child's best interest at heart, even if you're using a different approach than they prefer, can leave you feeling lost and alone. Late night grading sessions and prepping for big projects can also make it seem like it's just you against the world. But we're not doing this alone. From the very beginning of your teaching career, you have had people leading you down the right path, supporting you on your teaching journey, and walking next to you stride for stride every day. Our unique and diverse students require a wide variety of adults here at school to meet all of their needs. You probably won't win over every student in your class. And even if you develop a new relationship with one new student every day, at my school, you'd still fall far short of making connections with all of them by the end of the year. It takes a team at your school, just like everywhere else. You will never know which adult in the building will be the one that convinces a student to come back to school the next day. You will never see all of the connections that are made behind the scenes or between classes that make the difference for a student. No matter what our official jobs are here, any one of us can be the one that makes a difference for that one student. But you can't save them all. You won't be everyone's favorite. You won't always have the answer. You need us. We all do. From the very beginning, humans have needed one another. We still need one another. It's not always easy to ask for help, and it can be difficult to give up your autonomy when collaborating. But you need to be willing to do both if you want to be the best version of yourself. Whether this is school year number 1 or number 41, you will be relying on your colleagues here at school. There are no teachers here working in isolation. Even if you are the best at what you do, you will be even better when you work with your team. You can't do it all by yourself. We rely on one another in so many ways, from making sure the building itself is ready to go each morning, to meeting our students' mental health needs, to feeding them, to handling any number of issues that will never even get to us because we have teammates that take care of it without us even noticing. It's absurd to think that any of us can do this on our own when you realize how interconnected we all are. We couldn't accomplish anything without the people who laid the groundwork for our success today. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Lessons We Forgot. I'm the host, Chris Winkle. You can contact me at lessonsweforgot@gmail.com, and you can follow the show or message Lessons We Forgot on Facebook. Either way, I'd love to hear from you and welcome you to our community. If you really enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with a friend. That is the best way to help grow the podcast. If you want to hear more Lessons We Forgot, I post new episodes on Sunday nights. Make sure you subscribe to follow the show on whatever podcast platform you use. And when you rate the show, like an episode, or leave a comment, we can reach even more listeners. If you hate ads just like me, I do have a Patreon site, patreon.com/lessonsweforgot, and for only $1 a month, you can get the show without ads. You can try that out right now for free to see if it's something you'd be interested in. Thanks again for your support.